We are the largest float and wellness brand in the world. We're currently at about 78 locations.
I didn't realise it was actually that big.
Me neither.
That's incredible, and that's quick in 8 years.
Now business partners in the US.
What do you think about it looking back now?
We were incredibly stupid in deciding to go there. We're a brand new franchise system. We've got 2 fresh locations with a 3rd one on the way. We do not have the cash to go over there. We needed every single dollar.
Why did you do it?
We built the first one with our bare hands. We worked every hour to get the doors open to the first city cave.
You've sort of connected what you do to a really important mission there, which is lowering stress, because stress is a killer. I'm at 50 now, and my doctor said, all right, Adam, we're entering Sniper's Alley now.
The only way to sustain this industry in a way that it can grow at the rate that it needs to battle the amount of stress and overwhelm that we're facing right now is we have to.
What is up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. Today's podcast was really, really awesome. We have with us Jeremy Hassell, who is the co-founder of City Caves. These guys have 78 locations around Australia, 2 in the United States. Basically, a carpenter and a tiler who got together and acted on an idea to open float centers, so we can go in and actually float and just chill out with no sensory input, as well as saunas and massage. It's become the most successful franchise of its kind in the world. And they're in business now, which is an amazing story, with the daughter of the founder of Subway, who's now on their team helping them expand to the United States. In this podcast, we talk about how that relationship was formed, how they won this major award in front of 4,500 franchisors in the US, the incredible journey from their first store in 2018 to 78 locations today with a massive group turnover, an incredible franchising success story. We dive into the fours and the gates, the pluses, the challenges, and so much more. And right at the very end of the pod, Jeremy actually makes an incredible offer for any of you out there that are needing help, needing support. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to watch the end. But it's absolutely amazing. It's completely free. It's not every day that you get somebody like this offering something like that. So listen to the end. You're going to love it. A quick reminder for those of you that are interested in fast-tracking your business and you're looking for some help, you don't want to be out there on your own running a business with nobody around you, you can now apply for our business coaching. Eric and I are taking on some new clients right now. We have an incredible group of clients, many of whom are doing 6, 7, 8 figures a month in their business. And I think you guys will really enjoy learning more about it. If you want to have a look at that, go to unemployable.com/coaching. So unemployable.com.au/coaching and learn more there. So thank you for watching, guys. You're going to love this one. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye for now. Here's a fun fact about our show. We put a ton of effort into making these podcasts for you. The one thing that we would love for you to do if you actually get value out of the pod is just hit that subscribe button. By doing that, it helps us get better guests on the show because they can see that we have a bigger audience. So if you're enjoying the content, just hit the subscribe button below, and then throughout the podcast, drop a comment so that we know that we're hitting the mark or how we can improve. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the episode. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this edition of Unemployable. Today, we have something different for you. We don't have an online seller. We don't have somebody selling Lego lights, or we've actually got somebody who's got more of a traditional business this time around, a franchise business in the health and wellness space. Jeremy Hassell, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
That can be pulled right towards you, though.
All right.
Things swings.
I'll bring it in.
There you go. Nice. Now, you've come down from Brisbane this morning to the sunny Gold Coast. How good is it up here at this time of year?
I know. I think Queensland in winter is like the best place in the entire world. Honestly, I live in an apartment. I look east and watch the sunrise every morning. You get this golden and red hue that comes over. I think it's just magic. And just the weather, the temperature's great. You can still wear a T-shirt, put a pair of jeans on, and you're good to go.
I'm sorry for all the Southerners listening to this going, oh, what are these guys talking about? Not, oh, you've got a hoodie on. It's dropped all the way to like 22 degrees up here. Gold Coast.
It was fresh this morning.
You're Canadian. What's going on? So Jeremy, tell us, I've been told, I got a little bit of feedback that we banter too much at the start of the pod, so I thought I'd dive straight in today and
Get that feedback.
I know. But just for those listening, we have Mark here on the desk with us today. He's come up from Byron Bay.
What's going on?
And we got, of course, my amigo, Eric Machado. For those tuning in for the first time, Eric has a company called the MX Store, 170 employees, $10 million a month in turnover, roughly. And Marky Mark over here is an e-commerce seller on Amazon. Where are you at? About the 4 million mark now?
Yeah.
Selling your health and wellness products on Amazon?
Yeah, a couple of brands on Amazon, so yeah.
Amazing. So that's who we are, but we are not here for me, and for you guys, we're here for Jeremy today. So Jeremy, you're the founder, right, of City Cave, which is, I think, would have to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, float and sauna experience companies. How do you describe City Cave to people who've never heard of you before?
Yeah, first of all, I've got to give some credit to my co-founder, because I'm a co-founder. But we are the largest float and wellness brand, I guess, in the world. We're currently at about 78 locations. We've got predominantly in the east coast of Australia, and we've got one over in the US in Fort Lauderdale, and we are opening our second one in Texas in Fort Worth. So that's just about to start construction. So that's really exciting. It's an interesting space. We've been in this business for coming up to 8 years now. 2 years, Tim and I were just riding solo essentially with 2 locations, and then we decided to franchise to sort of grow the concept and give people the opportunity to be in this health and wellbeing space, but being in a safe environment.
Yeah. 78 locations. Congratulations. I didn't realize it was actually that big.
Me neither.
That's incredible. And that's quick in 8 years.
Yeah. And we had 2 years of COVID too. So really it's 6 years of franchising, 2 years you kind of just knocked that off for COVID. So really we grew that fast in about 4 years.
So I'm a customer. I've been to City Cave many times. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked to actually meet you and find out about the people behind the business and how you built it. But for those who are not familiar with sensory deprivation and the whole floating experience, I assume floating is sort of the main draw card?
Yeah.
Could you maybe just talk us through, for those listening who got no idea what City Cave is, when you turn up, what do you guys do?
Yeah. And I like that you picked up on that float therapy as kind of like our one thing. Essentially, we started out as just a float brand, and we had the traditional pods. We had 2 of those, and we had 2 open float pools. We found out, and the reason why we picked that was because, the pods were a little bit exciting. To me, I was like, I'm a bit entrepreneurial, I want to try new things. I'll put myself in this capsule. But when we did a little bit of research in the industry, we realized that, it was predominantly women that were using the service, and 50% of women are claustrophobic. So we're cutting out half our market very quickly. So we came up with this open room concept, and, through literally trial and error, having the 2 pods and the 2 pools, the pools were just more popular. So that was a little scent that we started to follow. And then we were starting to help so many different people from so many different walks of life for all these different ailments and stresses that they were trying to manage. And Tim and I got really addicted to this feeling of making people feel good. So we were like, what else can we do? So we came up with the concept of like a preventative healthcare hospital, we called it. And we added a whole heap of services. We had infrared sauna, we had massage, we had an infrared yoga studio, we had psychology, nutrition, we had hypnotherapy, we had musculoskeletal, we had everything that you could think of. And in trying to be everything to everyone, we became nothing to anybody. And it was a real hard business to manage. There was too many personalities, too many people, too many needs of certain practitioners with certain levels of education. So we stripped it back, and we built a model that was flotation therapy, infrared sauna, and massage. Massage being a bit of a gateway into trying our other services. I think the most recent research that we did, it was 97% of Australians would consider a massage. So that was an easy thing for us to be a bit of a gateway drug into trying our other services. Infrared sauna lends really well with it. It's a detoxifying, simple, easy to operate machine, I guess you would call it. And again, we've put those things in combination with our flotation therapy. So we have a flauna, which is a float in a sauna, or a flotage, which is a float in a massage. So we've coined a few little phrases that make the journey fun, and people can try different things and give them the overall experience. But flotation therapy in itself, we manufacture our float pools, and we came up with the concept of these float pools, because the hardest thing to, I guess, figure out was to get the environment, because the reason why it's in a capsule is to contain the environments, because you want the air temperature and the water temperature to be the same as your skin temperature. And in a closed capsule, it's really easy to mimic that. And also, try to block out sound and things like that, and get salts, make sure the salt stays inside the pool and doesn't come out, because it's quite corrosive and ruins everything. So we decided that Tim and I are actually ex-tradies, so we had to come up with a concept that I guess could emulate that environment in an open room. So we used infrared heating from the above. We had speakers on the outside of the pool to resonate music inside the water. And we built these things, rock solid. We still have challenges with salt and things like that, ruining the waterproofing and the paint and the silicone and the tiles and the grout and everything. But we still have made it pretty impenetrable as best as we possibly can, and that keeps developing. So, but flotation therapy in itself, the science of it, there's a lot of science and medical journals that sort of describe it as just being a reduction in stress. So it's reducing your environmental stimulation. That's what it is. It's reduced environmental stimulation therapy. And what you do is you go and lay in this, there's about a foot of water, and the water temperature and the air temperature is the same as your skin temperature, and you lay in this completely senseless environment. So you actually can't tell where the water starts or finishes. You spend an hour in there, and basically what it's doing is just taking away your stimulation so that your body can go into that NDSR, which is the non-deep sleep rest. And it's proven to work for so many different things. And I think from a more general perspective, I think the easiest way to describe it would be that, stress is the biggest killer for everybody, and it comes in all different forms and all different ways, and stress is unique to the individual. And I think all we're trying to really do is take away some of that stress, so it reduces the inflammations that are caused by our external existence. So you're just taking an hour away at a time to reset yourself, recalibrate your senses, and reinvigorate how you feel about your life in general.
I think, Ed, every entrepreneur listening to this, or any human that's living in the modern world, and especially a country like Australia, where it's now no longer the laid-back environment with inflation, everybody's working really hard. If you're running a business, you're going to have stresses. If that all sounded good, you really actually have to go try it. Like, seriously, we were talking off camera, Jeremy and I, just briefly, and sort of lamenting the fact that every time we go and do a float, we go, why aren't we doing this more regularly? Because just like us, you're busy as well, and you own the company, you probably wish you go more. Last time I went, I came out afterwards, and I feel high after I float in there, like literally, but in a really, really good way. I feel much more connected to the world around me. I feel grounded. I feel calm. And I think it is that sensory deprivation, but it's something about, is there something with the soaking of the minerals or something? I don't know if there is or not.
Yeah.
But you're literally just floating. You're weightless. You have no pressure on any area of your body. I don't even use the head pillow. I just literally float.
Same.
And you come out. My wife doesn't, because it freaks her out, the idea of not having the pillow. She goes, I might drown if I pass out. And I'm like, you'll be fine. But we go separate. We go together, and the rooms are next to each other. It's always immaculate. It's always clean. So yeah, for everyone listening, if you haven't had a float, go look up City Cave and book yourself in, because it is something you really need to experience to appreciate. But I love that how you've sort of connected what you do to a really important mission there, which is lowering stress, because stress is a killer. And I'm at 50 now, and my doctor said, all right, Adam, we're entering Sniper's Alley now, especially for entrepreneurs, right? You see, because you fucking guys don't stop, right? You're just always on. And this is like no devices, no stimulation at all. You can't even feel the difference between the water and the skin. So I love that. But my question to you is, I imagine, I mean, I'm guessing here, but franchising probably made sense because it would be hard to find staff that really, really care at a high enough level to, is that why you went the franchising route?
There's a couple of reasons. I think the main reason was we built the first one, being tradies, we built the first one with our bare hands. Me and Tim, we worked every hour to, get the doors open of the first city cave. And we have knowledge in the building industry. We know what we're doing, and even we stuffed it up. And it's a really, really challenging problem to have. And particularly when we thought about, I'm a really passionate guy. My purpose is to help people. That's what I'm here to do. And I thought the only way to sustain this industry in a way that I guess it can grow at the rate that it needs to battle the amount of stress and overwhelm that we're facing right now is we have to grow at scale, and it has to be fast. And so franchising became an avenue for us to do that. We wanted to not just give people the opportunity to be in this sector themselves, but get the benefits of what this and the reward of what this business actually gives you, which is being the pillar of health for your community. I think that that's really, really important to me and to us, is that, it's a level of gratitude that I get to give to someone. Like when someone opens their center and they have an amazing story of someone walks in completely stressed out of their mind, and you can see it, their shoulders are up by their ears, and then they walk out and they're almost in tears. Like, I can't believe I feel like this. I got to give someone the opportunity to have that feeling. That gave that to someone else. And so now what started with me, because, when I first floated, it was for me. I wanted to manage my own stress. I was dealing with my own stuff. Became about other people. I thought, this could be good for you too. This could be good for everybody. And then that feeling then fell down further into the franchise concept, because now I can give this overall feeling to someone else and to their family and to their community. And I think, there is something that you touched on that is really important, is we did need to have passionate, like-minded people to grow this.
Totally.
Because we couldn't do this with staff. You don't have the same level of buy-in, you don't have the same community connections, and franchising was the route.
So when did you sell your first franchise?
September 2018.
Wow. That's 5 minutes ago. It's not that long, right?
No, it's not that long ago.
That's amazing. And you've blown up to 78 locations and now into the US. So for people who are sitting there with a business concept, what would be the high level, that is potentially franchisable now that you're down the road 6 years? What would be the most important thing that, if you're thinking of franchising your business, what would be the most important things that you would, looking back, go, make sure that you have these things in place?
Oh, it's a really hard one to say, because if I was to tell you everything that was in my head around franchising, you probably wouldn't do it, And it's like anything in business. As an entrepreneur, if you knew exactly what you were walking into, there's no way you would even take the first step.
I think, one thing you were saying there at the start is when you had sort of the octopus business with all these that would be hard to franchise, right? With so many moving parts, whereas you simplify the offer, it's much more scalable.
Yeah.
I can't imagine trying to franchise what you described in the first iteration, because I only really know City Cave for what it is now.
Yeah.
Where you walk in, you can have a sauna, you can have a float, and you can have a massage, and that's it.
Yeah.
Would that be one thing, not too complex a thing?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You don't want your concept to be too complex, and it's got to work. That's the other thing. Your business has to work simply. I feel like if you can go on a holiday for 6 months and your business still operates maybe 10 or 15% less than what it was doing with you there, then that's a franchisable model. And then the other key thing that I was talking about with the community thing is, does your business need someone who's an educator in the local community? So if I think about, Fitstop or F45, it's important that they're a franchise model because they need to have an ambassador on the ground that's selling and, engaging with the community and building that community from the ground up. So I think those two elements, if it can run without you and it also needs a community lead,
your product is experientially, like you walk out and it's sort of not that subjective. You are definitely going to be chilled out. You're either going to freak out or chill out. Really.
Yeah.
When you go in. Because
I keep thinking about it. Last time I floated, I was about 19 and I was at a rave. So I got to really check this place out. I've had a massage there, but I haven't had a float.
Yeah.
I've had a girlfriend who, as she drops mushrooms and goes floating. She's like, I go in there and I see strawberries growing out of the walls. I love it. Not that you probably would encourage that, but
we don't encourage it, but each to their own.
They're willing to turn a blind eye. Or maybe I won't go into it, but we've microdosed mushrooms in float tank.
So with the franchising, so taking you back when you made that decision and said, okay, Tim's your business partner? Is it Tim? Yeah. So you go, okay, Tim, we're going to franchise. What did you do next? Who did you talk to?
We went to a lawyer.
Yep.
From someone that we knew that already had a franchise business and said, make us a franchise agreement.
Yep.
And then we kind of just came up with what we thought we needed. 'Cause a lot of the stuff is informed by the franchise agreement. The franchise agreement basically describes what you get from your franchisor. So we kind of use that document as like, okay, what do we need to give to a franchise owner?
Yep. And at that point in time, when you had the agreement, you had the idea, how did you find people to buy into your vision?
That's a really, really good question, because when you're in an industry that doesn't have a competitor or a natural, similar like-for-like business, then it's near on impossible, right? Like you're trying to convince people that...
You're educating.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the easiest way for us to do it was through our customers. So our customers are our franchise owners. Because a lot of the time, I'd say 90 to 95% of our franchise owners were customers first.
Wow.
And it's because they try it just the way that I tried it, and it changed my life. And I was like, other people need to do this. Oh, what? These guys franchise? Man, tell me more.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I think for any franchise business, that's where your first franchise owners will come from. I see a lot that a new franchisors coming into the industry, they go to these trade expos, they jump onto all these the broker networks, all that sort of stuff. It's like, if you're to attract anyone who's out there searching for a franchise and just landed on you, you better have your shit together, because they're benchmarking you against everyone else. Our first franchise owner is Kathy Reese. She actually lives down on the Gold Coast now. She was our trainer for our franchise owners. So not only was she a business owner, she helped us build the business and build the training platforms and teach and taught us. And that's one of the beautiful things about franchising is you've got, we've got 78 locations, but we've only got, I think it's 35 franchise owners, so most are multi-unit owners. And out of those people, you got 35 business people who are staring at the same problems every single day that can feed back to you exactly what it is that you potentially need to do as a next step. Hey, we're having issues with this. This is a consistency across the group.
Did you target the customers yourselves? Or did you actually go to the customers and say, okay, guys, we're franchising, and you went to a list and then had expressions of interest come back? How did you?
There was no strategy.
Yeah.
So we were actually our first franchise lead, who was our first franchise owner to sign, but not the first to open, Andrew Brown. He's down here on the Gold Coast as well, actually.
I think I know Andrew Brown.
Yeah. He owns City Cave Rabina.
Okay. Is he the water, Andrew Brown?
No.
In the water? No, okay.
No. We posted on our social media, on our City Cave Instagram, and it was a picture of our rock out the front of one of our locations with our brand on it. It said, City Cave is now franchising. Andrew Brown was over in, where was he? He was in Peru, and he just finished an ayahuasca trip. And he got to the top of this mountain. He was hiking, and reception came through and up. And in his ayahuasca trip, he had this health journey that he was going on. And he went, and this is why he was over there, to do this, to, figure out what his next step in life was. And he opened his phone, and this thing came up. And he was a customer prior to leaving to go on this trip. And he's like, this is what I'm doing next. Yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful thing about a mission-driven company. Like, you're in that space of, it is kind of transformational, the type of work. It's not like you're selling Big Macs.
No.
You're actually selling something that really does meaningfully. I can absolutely relate. If I didn't have anything else to do, I would have come out going, I would buy one of these, because it's aligned. It feels good to help people do good. That's right. And I love that you've got mostly multi-unit owners, which speaks a lot to what you're doing. It's not like you've got 75 people who regret being involved. 35 have doubled down and gone again, which is a great vote of confidence for your business. How much is a franchise, just to get a perspective roughly? What's the investment?
It started out pre-COVID around $450,000 to get in. It's now at about $750,000.
$750,000 to get in. Okay. And then what does a good franchisee make?
So it's generally around that 20% mark. There's your EBIT.
Okay, right. On the 750, you mean?
20% on annual revenue.
Oh, annual revenue. Yeah, I just meant, like, what do they earn? Like, what does a City Cave franchisee make? Yeah,
so it's around $950,000 to $1 million is the average, around average cave. We have some up to 1.5 and some much lower than that. But the general rule of thumb that you're looking for is about a 2.5 to 3 times multiple for your return on investment.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's about a 26% return or so.
Yeah.
On a 750 if you're making about 200.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so you've got 78 locations. What led you to go into the States? Like, that's a big jump to head over there. Is that sort of like the future of where you're heading next?
Yeah. So early in 2019, Tim and I, we got the opportunity to be in this competition called the Next Gen competition, and it was the next generation in franchising. And we won. Well, we got to top 2 here in Australia, and we got sent over to the IFA, which is the International Franchise Association. And the Next Gen competition sort of runs in the background whilst this big conference for franchising, and all the big top end of town are all at this IFA. So our eyes were completely red, and you had 2 locations plus the 2 that we own. So we were like we were very green. And we got to meet some really amazing people in the franchising space. Like I said, the big end of town was all there, and they were the mentors throughout this competition and this process. And I don't know how we did it, but me and Tim, we ended up winning the competition. We were presented our business in front of 4,500 franchisors from around the world. And yeah, we won. And so we won a big novelty $10,000 check in Vegas as well. So we tried. Tim's got a photo of me trying to cash it in. And yeah, it kind of just gave us this boost of confidence to be like, this could be huge. And thinking that we were the first international winners as well. So Americans actually liked our concept. We were like, well, this is the next step. And we met this lady. She was one of our judges, actually. Her name's Suzanne Greco. She was the ex-CEO of Subway Global. Most people don't know this, but Subway was one of the largest, or if not the largest at the time, franchise companies in the world. They got 44,000 locations. And she was the sister to the founder, Fred, who passed away. So Suzanne, we just got along with her like a house on fire. She's like family to us now. And she started to mentor us over the years. And we were like, we're thinking about bringing our concept to America. And she's like, well, tell me when. She's retired now, but she's obviously got some time on her hands to sort of help us out. And she did, and we've just kept following. We obviously got shut down during COVID. We couldn't get over there. We've been planning the inception since about 2019. And she's come on board with us as a small equity holder in the US over there to help us grow the brand.
Wow. That must be really exciting. What were you going to say?
Did you say the sister of the person that founded Subway?
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's an incredible. I love hearing these stories. Like we have the boxing kangaroo here because we just love Aussies that are putting on the gloves and having a fair income crack.
Yeah.
And here you are, started your Brisbane guys, and you've gone to the US. You've opened one in Fort Lauderdale, one
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth.
One's open in Fort Lauderdale.
And Fort Worth.
Fort Worth is the
Texas.
next one. Yeah.
Yeah. Two interesting spots. I used to have an office in Fort Lauderdale. But, taking on the world. And is there a market? Is there a city cave there now that's proving product market fit at all? Or are you going to be going and breaking ground there sort of as a pioneer again?
No, the Fort Lauderdale one is working well. One thing
outside of you guys, is there that's already sort of proving that it works?
In different spaces, I think the wellness space itself is kind of a bit fragmented. There is a infrared sauna franchise called Hotworks. They do really well, and there's a new kid on the block called Pause Studio, and they're probably more similar to us. They have lots of services, but they've got like 6 or 7 services. So we're very refined in what we do.
It's usually the other way around. Like I'm going on Saturday morning to do a class with a franchise called Stretch. I think they're called Stretch.
Stretch Lab?
Yeah, Stretch Lab.
Yes.
Assisted stretching. And I think that's an American concept because I saw it on Billions and I thought, how good would that be, like to have somebody just stretch you for like an hour, assisted stretching? And they've just opened up at, I think, Mullen Diner somewhere. But it's usually that way around. Like America comes here. It would be so awesome to see you guys go and like dominate over there.
Yeah.
And I think the Yanks will love it, personally, because they're the number one most stressed out people in the world. But they also have like we had the guy Shimano Vitality on here who do the Shilajit, the supplement, and they have just gone massive over there with their little Shilajit packets. In a year, they've gone from 0 to 1.2 million a month US in sales selling one supplement, which is crazy. And they did it through going on health podcasts. And I think that would be an amazing path for you guys to, amplify what you're doing in this whole space of just de-stressing people. I think you'll smash it over there.
Yeah. Our new, it's not new, it's kind of our articulation of what our brand has been is to become the antidote to stress. And that's what our brand really stands for. And there's a big part to play in the men's mental health space there as well, because I think that, typically we're not the ones that are looking at that type of thing. But yeah, that's that crosses any chasm, right? There's no I guess cultural challenges with that statement because everyone deals with stress. Doesn't matter who you are. And I think you're right. America is probably one of the most stressed out, and they're the people that need the most help. And that's what we're here to do. We want to help. And I constantly think about what the opportunity is in the United States for our brand, and the streets are paved with skeletons of Australian brands trying to launch in the US. Like it is real life. It is really tough over there, and although they look like us and they speak our language, they do not speak the same language at all. It's actually really different, and the way that they operate in business is different. The way that they take direction is different. The way that franchising works is different, and it's different in every single state as well by law. So it's a really, really challenging place to do business. I will say that. And we've been going at it for, 3 years now.
There.
And, we've got one location.
Yeah.
So it is hard. It is really hard, and it costs more than what you think. But once you do get it starts to gain momentum. And so it's about getting in there, understanding it as best as you possibly can, and then Americanizing what product you have. So one thing that a strategy that we adopted was to not change anything. Like we had to go into the US and be exactly who we are today in Australia, and then figure out what the US wants from us. Because if we go in there and we think the US might want this, or they're more inclined to that, or we want more saunas rather than floats, or whatever that might look like, we've changed too many things and we have no idea what it is we need to work on.
one thing at a time kind of thinking.
That's right. And so let's just go with what we know, what we're experts at, and then let's refine the model as we need to. And to date, we haven't really had to refine anything. I mean, there's probably some more technical aspects, when it comes to accounting and legals. They're the things that we need to get right. Labour is completely different compared to what it is in Australia, and the way that massage therapists are remunerated and that type of thing is very different. So, but it's all behind the scenes stuff. It's nothing front facing. The customer experience and the hygiene factors that we are famous for, will be famous for there too.
Are the consumers different on what they want and their expectations compared to Australians?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Australians have the highest of expectations as a consumer than anyone in the world.
Really? Even above Americans?
I thought it would be opposite.
Yeah, me too.
No. So interestingly, in the US, I mean, there's a big disparity in incomes, right? So we've got a very high level of income and affordability for certain people. And that's one thing. The other is, the people that can afford nothing and homeless and that sort of stuff. The happy middle, which is probably not so happy in the US, but the middle income earners, their expectations and the range in which that they can play in of experiences that they can afford, their expectations are not very high. And you see this, you walk into any restaurant and someone's like, oh, this is the best Italian restaurant. You go in there and the chairs are plastic and it's got there's rats running around. You're like, what do you mean this is the best Italian restaurant? Like Australians would never, ever, ever accept some of the standards that Americans have.
Do you think it's a population play too, though? Just because there's so many of them and there's so many options.
Definitely.
So many Italian restaurants.
Definitely.
That obviously, their expectations can change just based on that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And who's your main demographic? Like male versus female, and just kind of, I guess, from a income level as well.
So we're 25 to 40, 76% female, and the income level is interestingly actually a little bit lower than what we had originally or first expected. When we first opened the doors, we were like, this is a luxury item that people that have time for leisure are the ones that are going to do it, that have money. And so we put ourselves on James Street in Brisbane and then in Rosalie and Paddington. And we couldn't be more wrong. Our first franchise location opened up in Ipswich, which for those who are not from Queensland is considered to be a lower socioeconomic. And it became very quickly the most profitable business in our whole network.
Why?
I think that our mission in our business is to create nurturing environments that are accessible to everyone. And when I say accessible to everyone, I don't just mean that from a geographic perspective, but from a price point. I think it's actually not that expensive to get the experience that you get from our business. Because today's day and age, you want to go to the movies, you're going to spend $120, a couple of movie tickets, some popcorn, maybe a glass of wine and some food. That's a big night. That's actually a lot of money. Whereas for us, our price point is relatively cheap for the service and the level of experience that you get. We're talking $100 to $200. And for a couple's experience as well, you can do a Florna for under $200, like 2.5 hours. You get to go in for an infrared sauna and a float to completely foster your own health and well-being with your partner for under $200.
Yeah.
Where can you spend that kind of money and get that service?
Do you know what percentage of your customers are subscription or returning regular customers versus new customers?
Yeah.
Because with the float place I used to go to in Melbourne had it like a subscription where you got like a monthly float or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So,
It's since being in the business since the very beginning, it has changed, and our membership, or we call it the Cave Club. Our Cave Club has changed over time. I think right now we've got less committal people just because of the environment, the economy. I think people are a little bit scared of the word membership. They're happy to spend a little bit more to get a pack, but use it when they feel comfortable. But our level of Cave Club was probably, I can't tell you exactly what the number is, but it was about 10 to 15% of revenue.
And do you get a lot of, do you sell a lot of gift vouchers? Like, is it a highly giftable item?
Yeah. I think it's this thing, like when you're first at trying something, the best thing about being first is telling someone that you're first. And so buying someone a gift card when you've tried something, you're like, man, this is so awesome. Buying someone a gift card for that is almost an empowering thing for yourself as well. So we do get a lot of gifting, and it's a great gift, like what other things. Yeah.
Whenever you guys send out an email, like City Cave special 5 floats, I know Kat always buys them.
Gifted floats. I had an employee that used to work for me that I got her a monthly subscription to floats as well.
Yeah, cool.
It's a really cool gift.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, before I forget, I made a note here. Richard, can you just make sure you get the time that Adam's going on Saturday to the stretch lab so we could get some footage? I want to see you. I want to see these positions they're going to put you in, Matt. I want to see you wrapped up like a pretzel.
Right. That's very funny. So what are like some of the best stories you've had from your franchise network? Like somebody's come along, like is it the first lady that came? Like what's one of the stories of people that have now made a career out of owning a city cave as opposed to what they used to do?
I don't think she'll care about if I mention her name. One of my favourite stories. Oh, it's two. I mean, our stories seem to be very similar every single time. It's this. It's a mid to maybe late 40s mum whose kids are a little bit older. They're about to go out and start a career and move out of home. Husband's worked the whole time. Mum's thinking about what can I do next, and they haven't worked, or they've worked in like clerical or administration or teaching jobs, things like that. And then they see this thing, they convince their husband. Husband says yes. They open the business. Husband quits job. Husband does maintenance for business. Business succeeds. Woman becomes empowered.
Yes.
It's the same story every single time. I honestly, every single time we sit on a panel interview to that someone has to basically present to us whether they're fit for our brand or not. And I just see it every time. Like I know exactly how this story goes.
Yes.
But this one in particular, I think she was number 5 or 6. Maybe the 6th location that we opened. Her name was Deb. She used to work at a sleep apnea clinic. Her husband was a forklift driver. Great Aussie battler story. They bought a house at the right time, that type of thing. And to buy this business was a little bit of a stretch for them. They were introduced to it from a friend. And it was scary. It was a scary time for them and for us. We were very young in our franchising journey. We were putting our eggs in her basket, because we have to trust that they're going to be successful as well, or else that completely derails our brand. And, we worked together. We worked through some of the hard times in getting her open. Her opening, didn't launch as explosive as we had hoped, but she worked away at it. And that same story, Jeff quit his job and he started doing the maintenance on the cave, and they still sit in the top 5 locations in Australia. They have recently, the kids have left home, some have moved overseas, whatever. They bought a holiday home on the south coast of New South Wales. They now have, which is an hour and a half away from where their cave is, they now live there, and they don't live anywhere near their cave anymore. And,
where's the cave?
They're just the happiest people. City Cave, Gregory Hills.
Where's that?
Southwest of Sydney.
Okay.
Near Campbelltown.
So what do you do? Like if I buy a city cave from you as a franchisee, how do I launch it? Like how do I get people to come to that place?
Yeah, so it's like in a franchise system, you got to have all this stuff sewn up, right? So we take you from end to end. You sign your franchise agreement. We find you a location. We find you a builder. We connect the dots, and then we prepare you in training, and then we do a launch campaign with you. So that was marketing dollars that basically go out in media, and then also we give you tools and things to go out to your local community and network with gyms and go to your local business commerce platforms and find ways that you can be like, hey, I'm opening this business. Would you like to come in and try?
So do you do social ads, or how do you, is it that kind of stuff as well, digital?
Yeah, generally it starts with mostly digital. Some people do letterbox drops, some people do radio. There's a bit of a mix of different things that we try based on the experience of the franchise owner. Some people have no experience in marketing and they're scared to go and put themselves out there, so we put a little bit more budget into the digital space, and so it just flexes a little bit, but we just yell it and sell it.
What's the interview process like? So if I approached you and said, okay, I've got an idea, I want to open one in Springfield Lakes.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh, well, you're a pretty nice guy. All right, let's sit down and I'll suss you out. What's that process like?
Yeah, so it's about an 8-step process. Firstly, it's tell us a bit about, or we'll tell you a bit about us, and then we ask for you to do a questionnaire to tell us a little bit about you. Then if everything lines up from, if you're still interested and we're still interested on paper, we then look at a financial capacity. So we do a break-even calculator with you so that you can work out what the capacity is of the business, and then we understand your financial position. If those things line up again, then we go to what we call a panel interview. So you will essentially present to us how you're going to run and operate your business. We give you the guidance, we give you a template where you just fill in the blanks essentially. And then you present to us as a leadership team. So we have 4 of our people in the leadership team, our COO, myself, Tim, and our CFO. And basically you sell yourself to the brand and we give you a yes or no. If it's a yes, then you essentially go for finance and then sign your franchise agreement. We're off and running.
Interesting.
How many are on your team in-house on the franchisor side now? Just roughly.
I think it's about 18 to 19.
Yeah, supporting the whole 78 network.
Yeah.
And so what like as a franchisor, what does the org chart kind of look like?
Sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Operations, and then finance and legal.
Sales and marketing of the franchises, or just on behalf of the franchisees?
So it's a combination of both. So sales and marketing is selling franchises, and marketing is both. It's selling franchises, but it's also leading the brand strategy, making sure the campaign calendar is full. And
so sales and marketing, operations, and what was the last one?
And then finance and legals.
Right.
And then above that is Tim and myself as the co-CEOs.
Yeah.
And what's like the ongoing maintenance and salt and stuff like that? Do they have to buy all that through the franchisor?
For most things, we'll only sell you something if we can get it in bulk and get it cheaper.
Yes.
Otherwise, go to your local suppliers.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that we do that with: earplugs, salt, pool chemicals, things like
just
that.
to kind of keep things consistent at the same
time.
Right.
I mean, it's one of the reasons why you'd buy into a franchise, is because you get the economies of scale.
Yes.
And so you can run your business more effectively and more efficiently in a group rather than by yourself.
And you guys need a bit of scale, right, to make it like as a franchise. I heard Kenton Campbell say once at a business brief, he said, franchising is a get rich slow when you're a franchisor, right? Just because it takes time to build that recurring royalties and the things up. Is that sort of correct? Like, I haven't been a franchisor, or, like that was his comments.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the I'd say yes for the majority. It depends on the franchise. We are relatively lucky because we manufacture our float pools, so we sell them to the franchise owner on the way in. So we take revenue from the franchise agreement sale, and then we take revenue from the franchise from the City Cave float pools that we manufacture. So we get a little bit more on the way in, and that's helped us fuel the growth. If you're a franchise system that's just trying to survive off the franchise agreement sale, which typically is around $40,000 to $60,000 in the Australian market, it's very slow. You need to your break even, or what they call is royalty sufficiency, is like 120 to 130 locations. So, and it depends on your royalty structures and things like that. So, in short, maybe there's some truth in it, but not necessarily for every franchise system.
It depends, right? But you guys have got a lot of unique infrastructure that goes into those things.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you got that skill set.
And that was a guess, by the way. That was nothing smart that we ever did.
No,
we just manufactured this thing, and we're like, oh, well, you have to have the float pool with the franchise agreement. And I guess we didn't know that we needed it.
That's very impressive. I mean, it's a, you said you started in 2018, and I'm guessing the turnover there would be based on an average, say, $1 million. It's 70, 80 million bucks turnover, which is amazing. And congrats on that.
Yeah.
As a group. And it's good for every franchise, I think. Franchisee, I mean, responsible management of those growth is great. The bigger the group gets, the more it gets known. It's sort of like that sort of network effect to a certain extent as well.
I think that's a really good point. And it should be well known in a franchise, if you're considering to buy a franchise, is actually you get better by the more locations we have. Some people get a little bit like, you're just focused on growth. It's like, that's good for you. It's really good for you that the brand grows, because we have more money to play with to, have better marketing materials, to get into different markets, to build better infrastructure for the franchise network, to have more scale, so that your costs are more efficient and cheaper. And we've got more people with more eyes on the business. It just makes it better.
Totally agree.
It's a self-fulfilling business, I think.
Yeah. And as a franchisee, it's worth looking at the technology that you're buying into, right? Like maybe one of the reasons that the flotation tank franchises haven't expanded as much as they possibly could have is because everybody has that same tank. There's nothing unique about their technology.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys are actually building this infrastructure. Subway had their
Toaster oven,
special toaster infrastructure. McDonald's have got their systems. I think, looking at different businesses to buy into, it's important to see what technology you're buying, right?
And I think that that's a really good point. I probably haven't thought about it or given it enough credit in our business, because when I consider, if I was to, like knowing what I know about flotation therapy and the challenges that you face with filtration system, like if something happens in your filtration system and the person that you bought your float tank off is in China, like how quickly can you fix the only thing that makes you money? You can't. And you didn't buy a float business to be a pool expert or be a plumber. Like that's not why you bought a float business. So it's an interesting point, because that, people have problems with our product. We're on it straight away. We can see it in their booking system. Alarm bells are ringing on every different front to say, hey, we need help with this float pool, and we can actually jump in and fix it because we know the product, because we made it.
I want to bring you back to that franchise event in Vegas.
Yeah.
When you're presenting in front of over 4,000 other businesses, and you're now business partners in the US with the sister of the person that founded Subway.
Yes.
Now, and this is the importance of being in rooms and being at events. Do you feel that if you didn't win, right, and didn't get that recognition, would she still have been interested? And secondly, do you feel like if you weren't at that event, would you have gone into the US as quickly as you did?
And have 78 locations.
Yeah. Yes and no. I feel like yes. If we hadn't won, we probably wouldn't have had the amount of time spent with Suzanne to form a meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
So yes, we absolutely, that competition really drove our relationship with her to build what we have today with her. As far as would we have 78 locations, no, definitely not. And I'll tell you why. When we first started our franchising journey, when we were like, all right, me and Tim decided we're going to be franchisors. Let's do this. We walked to either sides of the whiteboard and we turned our shoulder and said, how many locations do you think we can do? Both wrote a number, put a hand over the number. All right, stand back. Are you ready? We lifted our hand off and we both said 50.
Wow.
That was as big as we thought we would ever get. And then little did we realize in, 8 short months that we were going to be in America presenting on stage in front of 4,500 people, our business that had thousands, if not tens of thousands of locations worldwide. And we're sitting here and we're thinking 50? mate, we can do way more than that. So
the thing about America, when you go there, it stretches you.
Yeah.
You can't stretch the head back to where it was.
Yeah.
I want to just dig on that just for a second, pull on that thread. If you can just cast your mind back to the moment the opportunity to go presented itself. So often in life, it's kind of sliding doors like that, and we only connect the dots looking backwards, as Steve Jobs said. Was it a case that at that time there was lots of reasons not to go and pull the trigger and make the effort and spend the money? And what do you think about it looking back now on that?
Absolutely. So as Steve Jobs also said, you got to be either incredibly smart or incredibly stupid, or a blend of both. And I think that that's true, because we were incredibly stupid in deciding to go there, but we were incredibly smart because we had no idea what we were going to do. We didn't have the money. We're a brand new franchise system. We've just opened. We've only got 2 locations, and we've got 2 fresh locations with a 3rd one on the way. We do not have the cash to go over there and invest the time and all the money to actually get there and do it. We needed every single dollar. In a franchise system, especially when you're growing and you're at the start, you need, you live off the smell of an oily rag. So
why did you do it?
It was crazy. Tim and I are stupid, man.
Is that right?
I'm serious. You
just said, screw it, we're going to do it.
We are, this is past tense, right? We've grown a lot since this point, but we're both high school dropouts. We're tradies. We had a pocket full of dreams. That's all we had, and so we had to be stupid enough to make that decision, and probably didn't even have the foresight to know we couldn't even afford it at that time. We've obviously shaped up since then, which has been fortunate. But at that time, man, we were just so excited about the opportunity, and we cared so much about our product and to help people that there was no saying no.
We've just heard this so many times with people who've sat in this studio with Aussies. Like we had Australia's #1 female boxer who's living in Florida now as a professional.
Oh, cool.
She said exactly this. I just had to go. She went with no plan. She moved over to Florida. She started sweeping floors at a boxing gym, and now she's fighting for the world title. And then there's people like Jelaine D from Brisbane, who was selling, eyelash product that she found in the back of a Korean supermarket in Sydney, and then she started selling at the Brisbane markets. She did like 4 markets and said, I'm going to go to Las Vegas trade show, and then sold 10,000 units to the first guy that walked up to the stand, who was a big chemist chain from Canada. And then that led to Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue. She sold out for
David Jones.
She sold out to, she's in Bloomingdale's, and she sold out for millions of dollars to private equity. And she just had to go. Like, she was literally breastfeeding a baby and took 18 suitcases of product with her to Vegas, not knowing you weren't even supposed to sell on the stand. And she had to sell it all because she didn't want to take it home. So that Aussie spirit of just like, we don't know what we're doing and we're going to do it anyway, and just put yourself in the room. And the room is a metaphor, right? Like, it could be the room, it could be the trip, it could be to go see a supplier, but that prioritizing that experience and shaking hands and pressing the flesh. And I look back so many times in my life, like I lived in the States for 5 years, and I look back and go, man, I was unprepared to go, but it completely changed my life after the 5 years that I was there. And I just think for our listeners, I was just showing the boys before we got a DM this morning from a guy driving in his truck at 4:30 this morning in his high-vis gear, just saying how much he loves the pod. And I'm just going to bring it up so you can see this, but just Jason Jones, here he is here. And there's probably a Jason Jones there right now listening to this, going into work thinking, man, this guy Jeremy, he's got 78 locations, $80 million roughly turnover, whatever it is. That's incredible. And so for that guy listening and that girl listening, you've got to do what Jeremy's talking about here, and you've got to just back yourself, even and especially if you don't have all the ducks in a row, because you'll never have all the ducks in a row, and here you are now.
We often talk about how hard business is and how much sacrifice and work that it requires. But can you talk us through, like, you and your business partner saying, fuck it, were you thinking, hey, let's have some fun here as well? Because I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about in business enough, that it is fun, the new experiences and taking a chance. And
It starts with giving yourself permission and then going having the fun.
Yeah. I sort of touch on something that you said earlier before I jump into that question, that I think taking the decision to fall into these rooms, proximity, I think, is the number one indicator to success. Get close. If you want to be anything, and there's a specific person that's good at that thing, get as close to that person as you can. If it's their EA, if it's their best friend, like, get close to people and see what happens. It literally comes from trying to be as close to it as possible, because things fall out of their pockets, ideas fall out of their pockets.
Just be careful how close you get to their wife.
Getting close to the co-founder of Subway might be a nice thing to do.
Framing's a big thing with people, right? Like, you can now sit in a room, in a meeting, over a dinner, and discuss your business and say that, yeah, I'm now business partners with the sister of the guy that started Subway. Like, that, to me, that is mind-boggling from going to one event. Like, that framing of, like, okay, like, I would take you so much more serious just because of that.
And that came about too from the two of you as tradies going, let's have a crack at this.
Yep.
Let's go and build a cave. And I mean, that must have been exciting. We had Grant Mayo in here, who started Nutrition Warehouse, 170 stores now. And Grant talks about opening his first outlet and sitting in the corner and like nobody walked in. He's like, oh my God, what the fuck have I done? I've got 20 grand of protein powder. And like these stories of like that first decision, when you look back on it now, you're probably having a beer somewhere or doing whatever you're doing. And then one of you just sort of suggested, do you want to do this?
Yep.
Like, and ask the question, and all those defining moments, asking the girl out for a drink or deciding to start the business, it all, one thing leads to another, but you acted on a good idea. And the only reason that you won that award is because I think it's a good idea. I look at it, I can see why it works from franchising, because it is experiential. Just get somebody to come to the front door and just sit in there for an hour and come out and it'll do its thing,
Yeah.
And it's a lifestyle business for the people buying the franchises.
Yes.
Right. Like, you've nailed the target mark on who that buyer is.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, there's plenty of those out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
People are passionate about helping, and particularly in that age group, like that perfect story that I told you about, the 45-year-old woman whose kids are all they've ever known is to nurture and love their kids and to help foster them and grow. And now that the kids are going, where's my purpose?
Correct.
I need to foster and nurture other people. That's the only thing I know that I'm really, really good at, and I've been trying that forever.
Yeah.
And so these are the mothers of the world that are going to change the world, I believe. They actually give a shit about not just their own families anymore, but they're about their communities. That's the thing that I get so excited when I meet those people in panel interviews. I see it straight away, and I'm like, you're going to change your community for the better forever from now on.
Yeah, what you're hearing here, guys, I just want to point this out again. As you're listening to Jeremy, if you were sitting in the room, you would actually have felt, maybe you did feel it through the mic, but I felt it sitting here, that these guys are tradies, but they're really on a mission here, and it's a real mission. And when you get on a real mission, it just makes everything so much more sustainable and bearable on your bad days. I'm sure you have your bad days where shit goes wrong and 3 pumps have blown up and somebody slipped and smacked their head or whatever goes on.
It happens.
But I just want to really drive that point home, guys, that, we did a coaching call with our coaching clients on Monday night, Eric and I, and we said, for a lot of you guys, you could have the Apple Mac sitting in front of you, the greatest product or service in the world, but you don't have enough self-belief to have a crack. And it's that self-belief and giving yourself permission to have a go that makes the difference. And look where it's led you to, just incredible. And
I want to kind of tie a couple of threads together, because you're 100% right. I think you absolutely need to find a passion in it, and however you do that inner work to figure out what that passion is so important, because Tim and I have always had this motto. Ever since we started in business together, we were like, look, we don't know what's going to happen, but let's just enjoy the ride. And we've done that. We always find time to laugh at ourselves when we stuff something up, or to celebrate when we've done something really good, or we've hit a milestone, or we've managed to smash a goal. Like, we are constantly looking for opportunities to reward ourselves with the fun of business, because it is so tough. And I'm not even kidding. It is so hard. And, people ask me, like, what's one piece of life advice? I'll just say, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. And that's hard, because, you might get the glory of getting the goal, but you don't realize the responsibility that comes with, and the emotional burden that you have to carry. The one thing that I know about money is that the more of it you have, the more problems you have, right? And it becomes this weight, and it's such a big problem for people that they have to have people to manage it. So they have family office to manage the money, because it's a hard thing to have so much of it accumulated around you. So you got to be careful of what you wish for. But in the same respect, you do have to learn to love that part of you as well. And I think that franchising has its ugly sides. There's some really ugly stuff in franchising that is innate in franchising, which is, you just have to accept it. You have to accept it, because that is the franchise owners typically, buy a business where they don't have to do a lot of the work themselves. They buy a system and they have to do a little bit of work. When you're in a business on your own, you buy your own, and the blame and the buck stops with you. When you're in a franchise system, there's probably somewhere where you can let some of the blame go. And so blame is innately in the culture of franchising. And so I have to accept that. And every time that I get upset about that, I need to remind myself that this is the business that I'm in. I chose this. But my responsibility as a franchisor, much like a parent, is just to love our franchise owners. Yep, they might say some things. Yep, they turn 13 years old and they go, "Screw you, Dad, I hate you." You still have to love them. That's just what franchising is. And so the thing that binds the whole thing together is that I actually give a shit about the people that this business impacts. And I actually care about that, because I wouldn't take half the crap that I've taken over the last 8 years to get to here. So
to know that about yourself, I think, going in, because in Franchising Australia, they get the disclosure document. They've got all the phone numbers of all your existing franchisees, which means that they know that they are an important part of you making your next franchise sale.
Yep.
Right. And so going into that, you need to understand that you're basically handing a lot of power to these people coming into the system. And if you get the wrong people in the system, it can really mess up the quality of your life, because they're saying like, if you don't give me this, Jeremy, you wait till I get the next call for the person who's going to spend $700,000 on a franchise. Just you wait. I can imagine, right? That if you get the wrong fucking person, it's just like, oh my God, it's so important that you've got to have that circumspect, genuine love for people, and be able to be circumspect under pressure.
Yeah.
It's all right to say you are, but when it actually comes down to it and shit's going sideways, to be actually...
what do you do?
Yeah,
do you send people a legal letter, or do you just get on the phone and give them a ring and go, "Come on, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk this one out," because, we got into this business together, and we're still in this business together, and it's ugly for us to get out of this business together. So let's just work this out. What is it? What is it that I can do to help?
Yeah, you've got to take that approach, because it's like a marriage. There's no cheap way out of it,
No, there's not. And I think that's a good thing. When people are signing a franchise agreement, they need to understand that as well. Like, not every year in your marriage is your best year. Not every year in your business is your best year. And it does get tough, The economy has factors, and you'll contextualize it with some of the challenges that the business is facing, and you'll go, it's the business's fault. And it's like, there's also other factors involved, but let's work together, because we're in this position. We need to get out.
It's where perspective and personal growth and all that stuff really comes into it.
That's right. And you have to be consistently looking at ways that you can improve those things. And I've got this little secret sauce, almost like this hidden gem under my seat, which is my product. I feel stressed and overwhelmed by my business, and I go and use my business. It's the weirdest thing. It's like, the ecosystem of this business is
some people should know bars, right?
That would be the worst. turn you off drinking.
Yeah. You're speaking in regards to, partners and franchise owners and whatnot. I want to ask you a few questions just about your relationship with your business partner. Were you guys mates before business?
Interestingly, he's from Queenstown in New Zealand, and he flew over here when he was about 21, and he flew to, I can actually see the top of the mark in that picture.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He moved into that building and was like the Gold Coast Kiwi dream. Like, yeah, I'm coming over here to start my new life in the sun. And then he was a tiler by trade. His dad was a tiler, and he did his apprenticeship with his dad. And my parents owned a renovation company. And so back in the days of newspaper adverts, my dad and Tim connected a long, long time ago before I even knew Tim. And they worked together for 3 or 4 years before I even had met Tim. And then I was living in Canada at the time. I came back to Australia, and I just started to work for my parents again. I was a carpenter, so I was like, I'll just pick up some stuff whilst I get back on my feet. And that's when Tim and I met, and we were like, you sound exactly like me. Let's just try a hand in something. So yeah,
inside a carpenter and a tailor couldn't be more perfectly suited to building a city, right?
Now, how do you manage that relationship? The reason why I ask is I've got business partners in all my businesses. I know Adam does as well, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But there's a lot of people that will be listening to the podcast that want to do everything on their own, or hold themselves back with these glass ceilings of stories, telling themselves stories of Uncle Bob that's got screwed over in a business partnership and the rest of it. How do you manage the friendship, the business relationship, and the expectations, everything that revolves around having a business partner?
It has been challenging, right? And I think about the principles of a healthy marriage, and that probably same thing applies in a business relationship. And the same things that we were talking about, you don't have every year's not your best year in a business partnership. Tim and I were connected by something pretty pure. We wanted to help people, and we had a very similar background. We didn't come from much. Both of our families were quite poor growing up. So we had something to run away from, both the same, right? And we were tradies, both the same. And we found this thing that we wanted to help people with, both the same. And so the platform of us wanting to go forward was pretty easy. It just made a lot of sense. We even look similar. People think we're brothers. But one thing that really held us together was the fact that we were not successful or we were just building the business for quite some time. So, we're married by debt in that sense, right?
Yeah.
We've got arsehole debts out there, and we're trying to figure out how to get through to the other side. And so my qualm that I had, or that he had with me, we had to squash that shit straight away because we were both in this, and we were in it in a big way. And that's what it's almost like having a child with, in a marriage. It's like, this thing's so much more important than how we feel about each other. Let's just try. And you continue to try and try and try and try. We found success in our business relationship based on one fundamental thing, I think. And that is, we found what each other were good at, and we created a 90-10 rule. So mine, sales, marketing, and brand, and I had to do construction, and we both handled operations. I have 90% say on every single decision that's made in that side of the business. If I need help or input, I can ask him, but if I don't agree with his input, he doesn't have a say. And I think that same principle applies, like I said, in a marriage. We manage other things, and as soon as we try and tell each other how to cook dinner, it goes up in flames. And so the same, I think that when we got to that stage, we were able to really run efficiently, because now we had a business with two passionate, dedicated, hyper-specific experts in what we were doing for our specific business. So we managed to gain a lot of ground that as a single person, it's hard to be an accountant and a marketing director at the same time. It's two different, it's left and right brain. It's not even close. So
know your strengths and play to those. Yeah,
we separated our brain space.
Yeah, that's why I love asking these questions, because you get these little nuggets, for people listening that they can implement in their, future partnerships or the partnerships that they have now.
And like we all know that cognitively, but I'm in business with my fiance, and that took us like 2 or 3 years to get to that point that you're describing. So it always, you can know it cognitively, but there's still an experiential component to actually getting it.
Yeah.
And, sometimes at the start, everyone thinks that they can do everything and they do know best for every part of the business. And then you realize over time, when one person starts stacking up wins in one area, the other person starts stacking up wins in the other area, to start respecting those wins.
Exactly.
It does take time.
And you might have a better idea on the decision that we need to make. But because if I'm trying to jump in on you, the worst thing that we can do is have indecision.
Mm-hmm.
We just need progress.
Yeah.
And if it's not perfect, it's something.
Yeah.
And then you can add what people don't realize about decision making is that decisions aren't final. It moves in a direction, but if it needs a tweak, it can tweak later.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be definite.
Yeah.
And so, you may not be able to influence it at the point and when it's critical, but when it gets to a stage where it's not working and you thought you could, and you foresaw that happening, then you can add your advice and go, cool. And then it's like you allowed them the ability to own their own space, and then you gave them the fostering and the care and the love and support to let them make that decision. But then you were able to work together on making it better.
Otherwise, nothing ever gets activated, right? Otherwise, it becomes analysis paralysis and going back and forth. So, yeah, it's super important.
And sometimes mistakes need to be made, right? And they can be really powerful bonding experiences. And how you respond when a mistake is made, like the old Tom Watson story, where a guy made like $1 million mistake, and he went in, and Tom Watson, who owned IBM, he said to him, I suppose you're going to fire me now. And he said, fire you? I just invested $1 million in your education. And why would I do that? But it could be a great opportunity to really bond with somebody and say, hey, listen, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. And sometimes younger people coming up, especially, you give them enough rope to hang themselves without killing themselves,
Yep.
Jeremy, this has been amazing. I really think it's a story that we need to watch, because it's so exciting to see you expanding something into the US, doing great here in Australia. Like it is so true for our listeners out there. Eric and I were talking about this morning, that success in business is actually rare. If you just listen to the podcast and every week you hear successful people, you think it's normal.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not normal to be successful. It's rare to find a company that succeeds. You've obviously got a concept that's winning. It's doing really well here. I'm sure it's going to do really well everywhere else. And so, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it on behalf of us, and also all the people out there, like the young guy who was sending that DM this morning, who's on their way up, who's driving to work, doing something that they don't really love. They feel they've got something bigger inside of them that they can express and bring to the world. And, and I mean this totally the right way. If a Chippy and a Tyler can build a business to this level from Brisbane, I come from Browns Plains, right? Like I used to sell vacuum cleaners in the Switch, in Ipswich. I know all those areas as well.
In the Switch.
Yeah, that's what it's called, the Switch out there, right? So, if you're out there listening to this, let Jeremy's story and Tim's story be another example of just ordinary Aussies strapping on the boxing gloves, having a crack, having a swing, and giving themselves permission to go. Because so many of you guys out there listening are sitting there and you're just not giving yourselves permission to have a crack at that business. Ask that girl out, ask that guy out, go to that event, invest in yourself, and, put yourself in the way of success. You're gonna be dead in a minute. So have a go, and you never know where it's going to lead. And I can see, just hearing you, looking back on your story, I can see you in real time connecting dots just today that you may not have connected until today. And it just goes to show for all of us, we really didn't know how it was going to turn out until we walked the path.
Yeah.
So to all of our listeners, please take a moment to drop a comment below and let Jeremy know what you thought of today. And I mean what I said. All of you should go to City Cave and book in and have the experience, because I am with Jeremy on this. I really believe it's one of those direct, immediate, 1 hour later, you feel a completely different way to what you did before you went in, which is why I'm such a fan of the brand and why I've been a customer over at City Cave and will continue to be into the future. And today's a good reminder that I need to go back. I haven't been there for too long. But thanks again, Jeremy. Really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if anyone is out there and I mentioned proximity being an ally to growth and success. I'm happy to put my email address here, and you can chuck it in the link in the bios, jeremy@citycave.com.au, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the mentors and the people that gave me an opportunity and a go and just listened to me. And so I really want to pay that forward, because not only do I just want to help our franchise owners and the people that we affect in our communities, but I want to help people just like me. I feel like it is a never-ending well of gratitude and love that I get to receive out of just giving more and more. It's something that never slaps me in the face. So I would, encourage anyone that is, driving in the truck or, shooting the nail gun this morning, that, is just thinking. I'm doing some mentoring for a young kid named Bailey, and he's a great young kid. He just doesn't know where to go or how to take the next step. And I helped him through some of the next, some fundamental things that could just change his life and get his brain into the right space, and so that he can start thinking in the right patterns. And I just said, send me a list of goals in these areas, and let's check in every month for half an hour, and doing that now. And I can already see it, his brain, the cogs are turning in just completely different way. So if anyone is, like I said, interested in maybe taking a next step out of something that they've been doing for too long, please reach out, because I'm happy to help.
Jeremy@citycave.com.au. That's very, very generous. Are you on socials?
Yes. I'm on private though.
What about, can we follow the brand? Just
city.cave.
City.cave on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We might have a new franchise coach on the panel, eh?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. There you have it, guys. Drop a note below for Jeremy, and if you are in that place, reach out and get some help. So thanks for watching, guys. We will see you on the next episode. Remember, go to unemployable.com/events to get early bird notification of when the tickets go on sale for our summit in October. If it's not already on sale by the time this pod comes out, that's unemployable.com.au/events, and get your ticket or get on the list to be notified first. It is definitely going to sell out. We've got more people on the wait list already to be notified than there are seats in the room, and that's not counting partners. So the Brisbane Convention Centre is going to be rocking October 19 and 20. Thanks again, Jeremy, and for all of you listening, see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.